Joshua carried the last box out of my apartment at 7:42 on a Tuesday night, and just like that, I was unemployed from the only job that had never paid me. Motherhood. Not real motherhood, technically. I had never pushed a child out of my body, never rocked a newborn through colic, never had anyone call me mommy. But I had raised 3 boys. That counted. Joshua paused in the doorway, with the cardboard box balanced against one hip, his 6-foot-something frame blocking half the hall. At 23, my baby brother had a beard, a decent job, and the nerve to look down at me like he was worried I might not survive without him leaving dishes in my sink. "You sure you're good, Maya?" I folded my arms and stared up at him. He immediately shifted his weight. Good. The look still worked. "I raised you through your deodorant is optional phase," I said. "I survived Daniel learning to drive. I survived Marcus bringing home that white girl who asked if we celebrated Thanksgiving." From the living room, Daniel choked. She was from Kelowna. She didn't know things. Marcus, sitting on my couch with a slice of pizza in his hand, gave him a flat look. She knew things. She just didn't know black people. Joshua grinned, but his eyes stayed soft on me. Too soft. I hated that look. It was the same one all 3 of them had started giving me lately. Like they had finally gotten old enough to understand what I had given up and didn't know what to do with the guilt. I didn't want their guilt. I wanted them happy, healthy, grown, and gone. Lovingly, of course. "Take your box," I told Joshua. "Go to your apartment. Put your clothes away before they live in a laundry basket for the next 6 months." He kissed my forehead, because all my brothers had grown taller than me and become disrespectful with it. "Love you." "I know." "Maya," I sighed. "Love you too. Now go before I change my mind and make you stay, so I can continue micromanaging your life." "That's not even a threat," Daniel called. "That's her love language." I pointed toward the door. "You can leave too." Daniel flashed his charming, troublemaking smile. 26 years old, and still emotionally attached to annoying me as a primary hobby. "Not before we discuss your next phase." "My next phase?" Marcus muttered. "Here we go." Daniel leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "Dating." Joshua turned right back around in the hallway. "Absolutely not." I blinked at him. "Excuse me?" "No offense, but men are trash." "You are men," I reminded him. "Exactly. I know the species." Marcus rubbed a hand over his mouth, trying not to laugh. He was 29 now, steady and thoughtful in a way that sometimes made my chest ache. Marcus remembered the most. He remembered me at 16, standing in a grocery store with coupons in one hand and Joshua's tiny fingers in the other, pretending I wasn't terrified. Daniel pointed at Joshua. "Don't block her blessings. Maya deserves a man. A tall one, with money, and knees that still work." "I'm 31, not 80, I said. "You need romance," Daniel continued, ignoring me. "Candles, dinner, somebody sending you flowers for no reason." "And sex," Marcus added calmly. All 3 of us stared at him. Marcus shrugged. "What? She's grown." "Thank you," I said, pressing a hand to my chest. Finally, someone in this family recognizes I am not a retired nun. Joshua made a pained sound. "Can we not?" "No, let's." I smiled sweetly. "Let's discuss the fact that your sister is a woman with needs." Daniel fell backward onto the couch, laughing. Joshua looked like he wanted to throw himself off my balcony. Good. Let them suffer. They had spent years eating all my groceries, breaking my furniture, borrowing my car, and asking me where things were while standing directly in front of them. If the price of adulthood was hearing that their sister might one day enjoy a dick attached to a responsible man with good credit and emotional intelligence, so be it. Marcus stood, his amusement fading into something gentler. He crossed the room and pulled me into a hug. I stiffened for half a second, then let myself lean into him. "You don't have to be on call anymore," he said quietly. My throat tightened before I could stop it. Damn him. Marcus always did that. Daniel made me laugh. Joshua made me protective. Marcus saw too much. "I know," I whispered. He squeezed once, then let me go. Try being selfish for once. Gross. Try anyway. An hour later, they were gone. All of them. The apartment was quiet in a way it had never been before. No game controllers clicking. No shower running too long. No one yelling, "Maya, have you seen my..." as if I were the patron saint of lost objects. Just me, my couch, my clean kitchen, my own breathing. For a moment, I stood in the middle of the living room and didn't know what to do with my hands. Then I opened my laptop and booked a weekend trip to Whistler, not because I had researched it properly. Not because anyone needed me there. Not because it was practical. Because I wanted to. The word felt strange in my body. Wanted. I wanted mountain air. I wanted hotel sheets I didn't have to wash. I wanted to eat food I hadn't cooked, drink wine without checking if there was enough milk for breakfast, and walk through a village where nobody knew me as someone's emergency contact. I wanted to flirt, maybe. I wanted to remember what it felt like to be 31. People loved acting like 31 was some tragic age for a woman to wake up and realize she had desires. Like my ovaries were holding a crisis meeting, and my chances at love had packed a suitcase and left sometime around 28. Fuck that. I wanted a husband one day. Children too, if life allowed it. I wanted laughter in a kitchen, hands on my waist, a man who noticed when I was tired before I had to collapse to prove it. I wanted to be touched like I was precious and kissed like I was trouble. Mostly, I wanted a life that belonged to me. By Friday afternoon, Vancouver was behind me and the sea-to-sky highway curved ahead like a promise. Rain misted over my windshield, blurring the dark evergreens and steel-blue water into something almost unreal. The mountains rose higher the farther I drove, snow clinging to their peaks like powdered sugar over black stone. I had packed too much. 3 sweaters, 2 pairs of jeans, hiking boots. One dress I had no confirmed reason to wear, but brought anyway, because hope deserved luggage space. Also, the good underwear, not the practical cotton ones I wore to the clinic under scrubs while wrestling anxious dogs and judgmental cats. The good ones. A woman had to be ready for miracles. My phone buzzed in the cup holder. The family group chat, currently named Amaya's blood pressure because Daniel thought he was hilarious, lit up with messages. Joshua, text when you arrive. Daniel, and send pics if you meet a mountain man. Joshua, do not meet a mountain man. Marcus, have fun. Seriously. I smiled despite myself and dictated a reply. I am ignoring all of you. Love you. Goodbye. Daniel immediately sent back a string of eggplant emojis. I nearly drove into a guardrail. Whistler Village greeted me with cold air, glowing windows, and the smell of wood smoke and expensive coffee. People moved along the stone walkways bundled in jackets and scarves, laughing beneath strings of warm lights. Couples held hands, families wrangled children. A group of men around my age walked past carrying ski gear, one of them glancing back at me with open interest. For one reckless second, I considered smiling. Then he tripped over the curb. I kept walking. My hotel room was small, pretty, and blessedly empty. I took a shower hot enough to turn the mirror silver, wrapped myself in a robe, ordered room service, and ate fries in bed while watching a terrible renovation show, where a couple with no budget somehow demanded heated floors and a wine cellar. No one interrupted me. No one asked for a ride. No one needed help filling out a form, finding a sock, calming down, getting up, cleaning anything, fixing anything, deciding anything. The quiet should have scared me. Instead, I slept for 9 hours. The next morning, I woke to sunlight slipping around the curtains and a strange ache behind my ribs. Not sadness. Not exactly. Space. There was finally space inside me, and I had no idea what might grow there. After coffee and a breakfast sandwich I did not have to share, I drove toward Lost Lake. The woman at the front desk told me the trails were beautiful this time of year, as long as I stayed aware of the ice and didn't wander too far off marked paths. I was 5'1", black, female, and not stupid. I had a whistle clipped to my jacket, bear spray in my side pocket, and enough common sense not to pet wildlife for the sake of a photo. The trail curved through thick forest, the lake appearing in flashes between the trees. Cold air filled my lungs. Snow dusted the ground in uneven patches, melting where sunlight touched it and hardening into slick crust in the shade. The world smelled like pine, damp earth, and winter waiting its turn. I walked slowly, letting my body settle into itself. At the animal rehabilitation clinic, my days were measured in medication schedules, injury assessments, frightened animals, and owners trying not to cry. At home, my life had been measured in school forms, bills, groceries, discipline, worry, and love so fierce it sometimes left teeth marks. Out here there was nothing to measure, just my breath. My boots, the faint lap of water against the shore. For the first time in years, I wasn't listening for someone calling my name. I stopped near a break in the trees and looked out across Lost Lake, the mountains reflected in the water, dark and jagged beneath the clouded sky. Something about the view pressed a hand to my chest. I couldn't explain it. The air felt different here. Thicker, somehow. Like forest was holding its breath around me. I frowned and glanced over my shoulder. Nothing. Just trees. Girl, I muttered to myself, do not start acting brand new in the woods. I turned back toward the trail. Then I heard it. Soft at first, so soft I almost blamed the wind. A broken sound. Thin. Human. I went still. There it was again. A sob. Not loud, not dramatic. The kind someone made when they were trying very hard not to be heard. Every sensible part of me said to keep walking. Find another hiker. Call for help from somewhere open and safe. But 15 years of raising boys had ruined me for minding my business. So had 10 years working with injured animals. Distress had a sound. Fear had a shape. And someone was crying just beyond the trees. I slid one hand into my pocket, wrapped my fingers around the bear spray, and stepped off the trail. Hello? I called, my voice steady despite the sudden hammer of my heart. Is someone there? For one breath, the forest went silent. Then the crying came again. Closer this time. The crying came again. Closer this time. I tightened my fingers around the bear spray in my pocket and moved between the trees, placing each boot carefully where the snow looked thin enough not to hide ice. The forest swallowed sound differently off the trail. One step away from the marked path, and suddenly Whistler felt less like a tourist postcard and more like the beginning of a true crime documentary where everyone later said, she was always so careful. Which I was. Careful did not mean cowardly. Hello, I called again. I'm not here to hurt you. The crying stopped. That somehow made it worse. I paused beside a cedar, letting my eyes adjust to the darker tangle of trunks and low branches. Then I saw her. A woman sat half-hidden near the base of a fallen log, one shoulder pressed into bark, as if she had tried to make herself smaller than she already was. She had long, pale blonde hair tangled over the front of a cream sweater, dark pants tucked into boots, and one gloved hand clamped around her opposite wrist. A black mobility cane lay several feet away in the snow, just out of reach. My heart dropped. Oh, honey, I whispered before I could stop myself. Her head jerked up. Wide blue-gray eyes locked on mine. Not child eyes, not helpless eyes, frightened ones. That mattered. I stopped immediately and lifted my free hand where she could see it. Hi, my name is Amaya. I'm going to stay right here unless you tell me otherwise, okay? She stared at me, breathing hard. I heard you crying from the trail. I nodded toward the open stretch of trees behind me. I didn't want to just walk away. Are you hurt? Her mouth opened. Nothing came out. Only a small, broken breath. Then her hand moved. Fast. Fluid. Shaking but deliberate. Signing. Damn. I'm sorry, I said gently. I don't know enough CSL to understand you. I know a few signs from clients at work, but not enough for this. Can you nod yes or no? Her throat moved. She swallowed, then nodded once. Okay. Good. We can work with that. I kept my voice calm because panic was contagious, and I refused to be patient zero. Are you hurt? A pause. Then she tilted her hands side to side. Maybe? She nodded, then shook her head. frustrated with the limits of the answer. Not badly hurt? I asked. She nodded. Can you stand? She looked at the cane lying in the snow. Her face crumpled for half a second before she fought it back under control. I knew that look. Not from people, mostly. From animals who had been injured and hated needing help. The kind who would rather drag themselves under a porch than let a hand get too close. So I did what I did at work. I made myself smaller. Which, at 5'1", was not exactly a grand accomplishment, but still. I'm going to crouch now. I moved slowly, lowering myself several feet away from her. I won't touch you unless you say it's okay. Her gaze flicked to my pocket. Smart woman. I pulled the bear spray out with 2 fingers, set it on the ground beside my boot, then raised both hands. For bears. Or men with bad intentions. Honestly, the second category worries me more. Something changed in her face. Not a smile. Not yet. But a little spark of awareness cut through the fear. Good. There she was. Is that your cane? I asked, nodding toward the black mobility aid. She nodded quickly. Do you want me to bring it to you? Another nod. I stood slowly, retrieved it, and brought it back without stepping into her space. Instead of handing it directly to her, I laid it on the snow within easy reach. Her eyes softened. Just a fraction. You're welcome, I said. She gripped the cane, but didn't try to stand. Her fingers were slender, the knuckles tight from cold or fear. Maybe both. One glove was missing, and her bare hand looked painfully red against the winter air. I unzipped my jacket halfway and pulled out the spare pair of thin gloves I'd shoved into the inside pocket that morning. Marcus had bought them for me 2 years ago, after I complained my fingers froze on early dog walks. Do you want these? I asked. She looked at the gloves, then at me. There was suspicion there, but not the ugly kind. More like she couldn't understand the offer. They're clean, I said. Mostly. I'm a vet tech, so my standards are realistic, but I'm not handing you raccoon gloves. That did it. Her mouth twitched. Tiny. Barely there. But I saw it. I smiled back and set the gloves beside her cane. She hesitated, then picked them up and tugged them on with uneven, trembling movements. Progress. I checked my phone next. No signal. Not even one pathetic little bar pretending to be useful. Of course. Because why would the woods allow basic public safety? Do you have a phone? I asked. She nodded, then patted the pocket of her coat. Her expression tightened. She pulled out a sleek black phone, tapped the screen, and turned it toward me. Dead. Okay. I blew out a breath. Mine has no signal, but the trail isn't far. I can go get help. Her hand shot out, not touching me. Just reaching. Panic flared across her face so bright I felt it in my own chest. All right, I said quickly. I won't leave. Her hand lowered. I studied her for a moment, careful not to stare too hard. She was probably in her late 20s, though distress made age difficult to guess. Beautiful in a delicate, wintry sort of way. The kind of woman people probably underestimated on sight, and then called fragile because it made them feel useful. I had no patience for that shit. Can you write? I asked. She nodded. I dug through my small hiking backpack and found the little notepad I used for grocery lists, because apparently no matter how free I claimed to be, I still carried stationery like somebody's auntie. I clicked a pen and held both out. Again, I didn't push them into her hands. I placed them on the ground between us. She reached for them slowly. Her fingers shook as she wrote. Elena. The handwriting was neat despite the tremor. Elena, I read aloud. That's pretty. She watched my mouth as I said it, then looked back at my eyes. I'm Amaya, I repeated, tapping my chest. Amaya Hurts. At that, her brows pulled together. Yes, I know. Last name sounds like a warning label. I've heard every joke. The corner of her mouth moved again. There we go. Do you live nearby, Elena? She hesitated, then nodded. Are you lost? Her hand hovered over the paper. Then she drew a shaky line. Stopped. Scratched it out. Not lost, then. Or not exactly. Did someone hurt you? Her eyes lifted to mine. For one sharp second, the forest seemed to still around us. Then she shook her head. I did not fully believe her. Not because I thought she was lying, because sometimes people answered the safest version of a question, not the truest one. Are you afraid of someone? I asked more softly. Elena looked past my shoulder. Every hair on my arms lifted. I turned just enough to check the trees behind me without giving her my back completely. Nothing moved. No footsteps, no voices. No hulking creep with a fondness for vulnerable women in isolated places. Still, my grip found the bear spray again. When I looked back, Elena had squeezed her eyes shut. Her breathing went uneven, tipping toward panic. Hey, I said, lowering my voice. You're okay. I'm right here. Her eyes opened. I pointed at the ground beside the log, leaving several feet between us. Can I sit? She nodded immediately. So I sat in the snow like a damn fool, because apparently my survival instincts and my caretaker instincts were in a toxic relationship, and the caretaker always won. Cold soaked through my jeans almost instantly. Great. If I got a UTI from being compassionate in the woods, I was going to be deeply annoyed. I'm not leaving until we figure out what you need, I told her, but I need you to help me understand. Do you need medical help? She thought about that. Then she tapped 2 fingers against her temple, winced, and nodded once. Headache? Dizzy? Nod. Did you fall? A smaller nod. Hit your head? She hesitated, then shook her head. Okay, that's good. I leaned back slightly, giving her room to breathe. Legs? Her mouth tightened. She tapped one thigh, then made a frustrated little motion with her hand. Pain? Weakness? She nodded at both. I didn't ask more. It wasn't my business unless she wanted it to be. Disability did not entitle strangers to a medical history. People loved forgetting that. Instead, I pulled a granola bar from my bag. Food? She stared at it. It's chocolate chip, not one of those sad bars that taste like compressed lawn clippings. Another tiny mouth twitch. She accepted it. While she picked at the wrapper, I looked around again. Where the hell was her family? The thought came quick and hot, followed by another before I could stop it. Who leaves a woman alone in the woods like this? Elena went completely still. I didn't notice at first. I was too busy scanning the spaces between the trees and trying to calculate how long it would take to get back to the trail with her if she couldn't walk far. But then her gaze sharpened on my face in a way that made me pause. What? She blinked. I frowned. Do I have something on my face? Her lips parted. No sound. Then, very slowly, she reached toward me. Not for the notebook. For my hand. I looked down, then back at her. You want my hand? She nodded. There was something painfully careful about the way she asked without words. Like she expected me to pull away. Like touch was either rare or dangerous. That did something unpleasant to my chest. Okay, I said. But if you squeeze too hard, I'm charging emotional support fees. Her mouth trembled. I offered my hand palm up between us. She placed her fingers in mine. The instant our skin touched, warmth shot up my arm. Not heat exactly. More like standing too close to a struck match in a dark room. I sucked in a breath. Elena did too. Her eyes widened, and for a split second, I had the strangest feeling she was looking through me. Not at my face, not even into my eyes. Through everything I had stacked neatly inside myself for years. The bills, the boys, the sleepless nights, the loneliness I rarely admitted to, even in my own head. My fingers flexed beneath hers. Elena? She didn't answer. Of course she didn't answer, Amaya. Brilliant. My thoughts tumbled ahead anyway. Where is your family, sweetheart? Are they looking for you? Please don't let some creepy man come looking for her, because I am not in the mood to get murdered by a mountain pervert before lunch. Elena's face changed. Her eyes went round. Then she laughed. It burst out of her soundlessly at first, her shoulders shaking, one hand flying to her mouth, as if the laugh had surprised her more than it surprised me. Then a breathy little sound escaped her, broken and bright. Not a voice exactly, more like joy tripping over itself on the way out. I stared at her. "Okay," I said slowly. "I'm glad we're having a moment, but I don't know what part of this situation was funny." She laughed harder. Tears slipped down her cheeks, but they weren't the same tears as before. These warmed her whole face, lit it from the inside. I narrowed my eyes. "I know my face is expressive, but damn." Elena pressed her gloved fingers to her lips, trying to contain herself. Then she tapped her temple, pointed at me, and laughed again. My heart gave one hard, confused thump. "No," I said, "absolutely not." Her eyes sparkled. "You are not laughing at my thoughts. That is not a thing. I came to Whistler for rest, overpriced coffee, and maybe light flirting. I did not consent to psychic bullying." Elena bent forward, shoulders shaking. I should have been alarmed. I was alarmed, but I was also weirdly relieved, because whatever else was happening, this silent, frightened woman had stopped crying. "Fine," I muttered. "If you can hear me, then you already know I'm concerned," and mildly irritated. Her hand tightened around mine. Gentle, grateful. The laughter faded, leaving a smile behind so open it almost hurt to look at. For a moment, the forest did not feel cold. Then a branch snapped somewhere behind us. Elena's smile vanished. Her hand clamped down on mine. I turned toward the sound, my other hand already closing around the bear spray. A voice cut through the trees. Deep, controlled, and furious. "Elena." The voice did not sound like a question. It sounded like the forest had been ordered to hand someone over. Elena's hand clamped around mine so hard my fingers pinched together. Every bit of amusement drained from her face, leaving panic behind. That was enough for me. I moved before I thought better of it, shifting my body between her and the sound, which was ridiculous, considering I was 5'1" on a confident day and armed with bear spray, but I had spent half my life standing between my brothers and whatever wanted to hurt them. Some instincts did not retire just because everyone got grown. "Stay where you are," I called. The trees went quiet. Then a man stepped into view. No, not stepped, arrived. He came through the forest like it had parted for him out of respect or fear, dressed in a long black coat that belonged in a gothic romance, and boots that crushed the snow without hesitation. He was tall, absurdly tall, the kind of tall that made my brain reject basic measurement. Broad shoulders, dark hair, strong jaw, expression locked down so tightly it looked carved rather than worn. His eyes found Elena first. The fury in him shifted, not vanished, shifted, like a blade turning away from a throat. "Elena," he said again, lower this time. She made a small sound beside me. Not a word, a breath, a broken thing caught between relief and fear. The man's gaze dropped to our joined hands. Everything about him changed. It was subtle enough that most people might have missed it. I did not. I had spent years reading boys who lied badly and animals who couldn't speak at all. His shoulders went still. His face did not soften, exactly, but something behind it cracked. Just for a second. Then his attention moved to me, and the air got strange. Not colder, not warmer, heavier. His eyes were dark at first, then gold flashed through them, bright and impossible, like sunlight caught under amber. I blinked. They were normal again. Well, normal adjacent. Because nothing about a 6'7" man staring at me in the woods like I had just ruined his entire day felt normal. "Who are you?" he asked. His voice was controlled now, but control did not make it gentle. It made it worse. Men who yelled gave you something obvious to push against. Men who sounded like that made rooms go silent. Unfortunately for him, I had raised Daniel through puberty. Intimidation had a limited shelf life with me. "I was going to ask you the same thing," I said. His gaze sharpened. Behind me, Elena squeezed my hand twice. I didn't look away from him. You know her? I'm her brother. Name. A pause. Not because he didn't know it, because apparently very large men in expensive coats weren't used to being questioned by tiny black women holding discount bear spray. Adrian Callahan. Elena, I said, keeping my voice calm. Is that true? She tugged gently on my hand until I turned enough to see her. She nodded. Relief moved through me, but I did not let go of caution completely. Plenty of people were related to danger. Do you feel safe with him? I asked. Adrian's jaw tightened. Good. He could be offended in his own time. Elena looked at him, then back at me. She nodded again. Only then did I lower the bear spray by an inch. Not all the way. I was compassionate, not stupid. Adrian noticed. His mouth almost moved. If I had to guess, he was either impressed or deciding where to bury me. Are you injured? He asked Elena. His hands lifted, and to my surprise, he signed as he spoke. Not clumsy, not performative. Fluent. His large fingers moved with a precision that made something in my chest ease despite myself. Elena answered quickly in Canadian Sign Language, her movements shaky at first, then steadier. Her face changed while she signed. Still anxious, yes, but also alive, in a way she hadn't been when I found her crying near that log. Adrian watched every motion with frightening focus. Whatever else he was, he loved her. That mattered too. He replied with his hands, shorter this time. Elena shook her head, signed again, then pointed at me. I lifted a brow. I'm missing the captions here. Adrian looked at me. She says she fell. She has pain in her leg and a headache. She says you found her. She was crying. His expression tightened. Yes. One word. A whole storm under it. Your phone died, I told Elena, then looked at him. Mine has no signal out here. If she needs medical attention, we should get her to the trail and call. No ambulance. I stared at him. He held my gaze. She has physicians at home. At home where? Nearby. That is not an answer. For the first time, something like surprise moved across his face. It was quick, but I caught it. I had the sudden and insane thought that not many people told Adrian Callahan when his answers were shit. Elena is my responsibility, he said. She is a grown woman, I replied. And she is sitting right here. Elena's fingers tightened around mine again. Adrian went very still. The forest seemed to lean away from him. A low sound moved through the trees. Not thunder, not wind. Something deeper. My skin prickled. Adrian inhaled once, slowly, and the sound stopped. I should have stepped back. Instead, I narrowed my eyes. Are you growling at me? His gaze snapped to mine. Elena's mouth twitched. Not now, girl. The man was terrifying, yes, but he was also irritatingly attractive, which seemed unfair and medically unnecessary. His face was all severe angles and quiet violence, the kind of handsome that suggested a woman could make one bad decision and spend the next decade recovering. And why the hell was this man built like a damn wall? Not a decorative wall either. A load-bearing wall. A structural support. Something engineers admired and city inspectors respected. Beside me, Elena made a tiny, breathless sound. I looked down. She was smiling. Actually smiling. Her eyes sparkled at me like the little menace knew exactly what I had just thought. No, I whispered. Do not start with me. Her smile widened. Adrian noticed. The shift in him was immediate. His eyes cut to Elena's face, and every hard line in his body went quiet. Not relaxed. Never that. But stunned. Elena, he said. She pressed her lips together, failing badly at hiding her amusement. He stared at her like she had just performed a miracle in the snow. Something in my irritation softened. Damn it. I hated when intimidating men had emotionally vulnerable layers. It complicated the very simple and enjoyable process of judging them. She laughed earlier, I said. His attention returned to me. She what? Laughed. I shrugged. At my expense, apparently. I'm still deciding whether to be offended. Adrian looked back at his sister. Elena avoided his gaze with the innocence of someone absolutely guilty. His throat worked once. For a moment, he looked less like a man who could command a mountain, and more like a brother trying not to break apart in public. Then the mask returned. "Thank you," he said. It sounded like the words had to fight their way out. "You're welcome." He took one step forward. Elena flinched. He stopped instantly. That, more than anything, told me something important. He could have crossed the distance in 2 strides, could have scooped her up whether she agreed or not, could have treated her like a package to retrieve. He didn't. His hands lifted again. He signed slowly this time. Elena watched him, her brows pulling together. She shook her head. "Elena," he said aloud, voice low, "you frightened everyone." She looked away. Pain crossed his face and vanished. "I know," he signed. Then softer, "But we need to go home." Home. The word landed strangely. Elena's gaze flicked to the trees behind him, then to me. Her hand was still in mine. Adrian followed the movement. His expression became unreadable. "I can help her to the trail," I said. "If she wants that." "No," he replied. My eyebrows rose. He seemed to realize his tone and adjusted it with visible effort. "That will not be necessary. I can carry her." "Elena?" I asked. Adrian's eyes narrowed slightly. "She is my sister." "And I'm asking her." Silence. Very cold, very sharp silence. If this man murdered me, I hoped my brothers haunted him with extreme inconvenience. Joshua would rearrange all his furniture. Daniel would hide shrimp in his curtain rods. Marcus would ruin him financially. Elena looked between us. Then she lifted her free hand and signed at Adrian, brisk and pointed. I didn't know the words, but I knew attitude. My God. She was scolding him. Adrian listened without interruption, though one muscle in his jaw flexed so hard I feared for his molars. When she finished, he looked at me. My sister would like me to stop being. He paused. Elena signed one more thing. His eyes closed for half a second. When he opened them, they were normal again. Mostly. She would like me to stop being an overbearing ass. I pressed my lips together. Do not laugh. Do not laugh at the frightening forest man. Elena squeezed my hand. Traitor. That seems like a reasonable request, I said. Adrian's gaze held mine. A different current moved through the space between us then. Still tense, but not hostile. Something else. Something that made the back of my neck warm despite the cold air. His eyes dropped briefly to my mouth. So briefly, I almost missed it. Almost. My body noticed, though. My body, which had apparently spent 15 years waiting for the worst possible moment to remember, it was attached to a woman with working hormones, and poor taste in danger. Absolutely not. We were not doing that. Not with a stranger in the woods who growled. Elena, Adrian said, breaking the moment. May I carry you? She hesitated, then nodded. But when he stepped closer and crouched in front of her, she did not release my hand. He extended his arms with careful patience. She looked at him, then at me. Then she shook her head. Elena, he said. She shook her head again, firmer. His brows drew together. What is it? She let go of her cane long enough to grab the notebook from the snow. Her fingers were steadier now as she wrote in large, clear letters. No. Adrian read it. Elena. She underlined the words so hard the pen nearly tore the paper. Then she wrote beneath it, Amaya. My stomach dipped. Oh, sweetheart, I said softly. I can walk with you until you feel safe, okay? But I can't just... Elena turned the page and wrote again. Slower this time. Deliberate. She stays. The forest went silent around us. Adrian's face changed in a way I could not name. His gaze moved from the notebook to Elena's hand wrapped around mine, then finally to me. Gold flickered in his eyes again. Miss Hurts, he said, each word careful enough to cut. It appears my sister has made a decision. I swallowed. About what? Elena laced her fingers through mine and held on like a vow. Adrian's jaw tightened. About you. About you. There were sentences a person did not want to hear while sitting in the snow with a strange woman holding her hand and a giant man staring down at her like he had misplaced his entire nervous system. That was one of them. I looked from Adrian to Elena, then back again. I'm sorry, did I accidentally enter a custody arrangement? Because I don't remember signing anything. Elena's fingers tightened around mine. Adrian did not smile, but something around his eyes shifted. If this man had a sense of humor, it had clearly been locked in a basement and fed only on rare occasions. My sister trusts you, he said. I'm glad. I like her too. That does not explain why she's looking at me like I'm the emotional support human she ordered online. Elena's mouth twitched. Adrian glanced down at her, and for 1 second that carved stone face softened into something dangerously close to tenderness. Then he looked at me again. She needs to return home, he said. Our healer can examine her there. Healer? Physician, he corrected. Too quickly. I narrowed my eyes. You said healer. I did. And then immediately realized how suspicious that sounded. His gaze held mine. Miss Hurts, Amaya, I said. If we're negotiating my possible woodland abduction, let's use first names. A low sound came from behind him. I snapped my attention to the trees and reached for the bear spray again. Another man stepped out of the forest, because apparently Whistler was having a sale on terrifyingly large men. This one wasn't as tall as Adrian, but he was broad, dark-haired, and watchful in a way that made every sensible instinct in my body sit up and fill out a police report. His eyes flicked over Elena, then me, then our joined hands. His nostrils flared. Actually flared. Human, he said. I blinked. Rude, but accurate. His eyebrows lifted. Adrian's voice cut through the air. Nathan. One word. Quiet. A warning. Nathan's mouth shut, but his stare did not become any friendlier. Elena requires Sophie, Adrian said. Bring the vehicle closer. Nathan looked like he wanted to argue. Then he looked at Elena. Whatever he saw there changed his mind. He gave Adrian a curt nod and disappeared back through the trees with the silent efficiency of a man who had definitely hidden bodies before. Or maybe that was unfair. Maybe he only looked like he had hidden bodies because he had a good jawline and poor social skills. Elena made a tiny breath of laughter. I looked down at her. Are you still in my head? She pressed her lips together. That is not a no. Her eyes sparkled. Great, I muttered. Psychic eavesdropping. Exactly what my peaceful weekend was missing. Adrian went very still. I looked up and immediately regretted it. His attention had sharpened on me with uncomfortable precision. What do you mean, psychic? Elena's amusement vanished. Damn, I had stepped on something. I mean, she has excellent intuition, I said smoothly, and a judgmental little face. Elena stared at me. You're welcome, I thought to her. Her hand squeezed mine once. Adrian watched us both, and I could practically see him filing away everything he didn't understand. The man looked like the type to alphabetize suspicions. I am not asking you to trust me blindly, he said after a moment, but I am asking you to come with us, only until Elena has been examined. No, his face hardened. No? No, not like that. Not with vague answers and scary backup appearing from trees. I tilted my head toward Elena. I want her safe, but I have a hotel room, a car, and 3 brothers who will turn British Columbia upside down if I disappear. That is reasonable. I did not expect that. Adrian reached into his coat and pulled out a phone. Not a normal phone. Something heavier, rugged, satellite maybe. He extended it toward me. Call one of them. Tell them my name. Tell them where you are going. I took the phone slowly. And where am I going? Blackthorn Estate. That sounded like a place where rich people drank blood and discussed tax loopholes. I stared at him. He did not blink. Of course it's called Blackthorn, I said. Why would it be something comforting like Maple House or Dave's Cabin? Elena's shoulders shook. Adrian's mouth did something almost human. I called Marcus. He answered on the second ring. Maya? Hey, I'm fine. Silence. I closed my eyes. Do not start with your oldest brother breathing. Why are you calling from a number I don't recognize? Because my phone has no signal and I borrowed one. From who? I looked at Adrian. A man named Adrian Callahan. More silence, the dangerous kind. And why, Marcus asked slowly, are you borrowing a phone from a man named Adrian Callahan? I found an injured woman near Lost Lake. Her brother came to get her. I'm going with them to their estate so she can be examined. You're doing what? I know how it sounds. It sounds like the beginning of a documentary where the family says she lit up every room. Marcus. No, send me everything. Name, location, photo, license plate, blood type, if you can get it. Adrian's brows rose slightly. I'll text what I can from this phone, I said. If I don't check in within an hour, unleash hell. I don't like this. Neither do I, but she's scared and she won't let go of me. That softened him. I heard it in the pause. Be smart, he said. I'm always smart. You're compassionate. It makes you stupid sometimes. Love you too. I hung up before he could start giving tactical instructions, like he had not once lost a fight to a fitted sheet. Adrian watched me return the phone. Satisfied? No, but slightly less convinced I'm about to be murdered. That is progress. Barely. Nathan returned with a black SUV that looked expensive enough to have its own lawyer. Adrian crouched in front of Elena again. May I carry you? He asked, signing with his words. Elena hesitated, then nodded, but she refused to release my hand. That was how I ended up walking through the forest, beside a 6'7" man carrying his sister like she weighed nothing, while she held on to me as if I were the last sane object in the world. Adrian slowed his stride to match mine without being asked. I noticed. I wished I hadn't. He was careful with Elena, one arm supporting her back, the other beneath her knees. There was nothing performative about it. No impatience, no masculine huffing about inconvenience, just quiet competence, and the kind of gentleness that made my chest feel tight in places I had not scheduled for activity. He also smelled unfairly good. Cold air, cedar, clean soap, and something warmer underneath. Smoke, maybe. Heat. Danger wearing a black coat. Absolutely not, I told myself. My pussy, recently awakened from a 15-year administrative coma, did not get to choose violence in the middle of a supernatural-looking forest. Elena made a strangled sound. I looked at her. If you heard that, mind your business. She buried her face against Adrian's coat, laughing silently. Adrian looked down at her, stunned again. Then he looked at me. I looked at the trees. Beautiful weather. The SUV ride should have taken us back toward civilization. It did not. Nathan drove along a narrow private road that my sense of direction insisted had not existed 5 minutes earlier. The forest thickened around us until the trees stood black and close on either side. Fog slipped between the trunks in slow ribbons. Then the air changed. My ears popped. The world shimmered. I grabbed the door handle. What the hell was that? Adrian, seated beside Elena in the back while I occupied the other side because she still would not let me go, answered calmly. The boundary. The boundary. Yes. Like a property line? Not exactly. I looked out the window as the fog peeled away. Black iron gates rose ahead, twisted with thorn patterns that seemed too delicate for something that massive. Beyond them, the mountain opened into a hidden valley. And there it was. Blackthorn Estate. Not a house, not even a mansion. A damn kingdom pretending to be private property. An enormous manor sat against the mountain backdrop, all dark stone, steep roofs, warm glowing windows, and ivy clinging to the walls despite the cold. Around it stretched smaller homes, cottages, stables, gardens, A lake shining beneath gray light, and winding paths dusted with snow. Smoke curled from chimneys. People moved between buildings. At least I thought they were people. Then something huge crossed the sky. I leaned forward. Wings. My brain tried to make sense of it and failed with commitment. The creature glided between two snowy peaks, long-bodied and dark-scaled, its wings cutting through the mist with impossible grace. It turned, and for 1 second sunlight struck along its spine like steel. I stopped breathing. That, I said very carefully, is a dragon. Adrian did not look away from me. Yes. I turned my head slowly. You say that like you're telling me that's a Subaru. Nathan made a sound from the front seat that might have been a laugh if he had a soul. My pulse hammered. There are dragons. Yes. In Whistler. A pause. Among other places. I looked at Elena. You live with dragons? She nodded. Of course you do. I sat back. That tracks. This whole morning has been deeply unreasonable. The gates opened without anyone touching them. As we drove inside, people turned to look. Not subtly either. A woman carrying a basket stopped mid-step. A child with bright silver eyes pointed until his mother lowered his hand. 2 men near the stables stared openly, then bowed their heads when they saw Adrian. Near one cottage, a wolf the size of a small pony lifted its head and watched the SUV pass with unsettling intelligence. I pressed back into the seat. Adrian's voice lowered. No one here will harm you. I'm going to need you to understand that sentence hits different after a dragon flies over the car. His gaze softened by a degree. Understandable. The SUV stopped in front of a stone building with wide windows and a carved wooden sign I couldn't read because my eyes were busy tracking the wolf. The wolf stared back, then its body blurred. Bones shifted. Fur withdrew. Limbs changed. A naked man crouched where the wolf had been. I slapped a hand over my eyes. Nope, absolutely not. I did not consent to surprise Dick before noon. Nathan choked. Adrian made a sharp sound that might have been him strangling a laugh. Rowan, Adrian called, voice suddenly lethal. Clothes. Sorry, my lord, the man shouted, sound not sorry enough. My lord. I lowered my hand just enough to glare at Adrian's chest, because glaring at his face required too much neck. My lord? Adrian sighed. Actually sighed. Elena patted my hand sympathetically. Oh, we are definitely discussing that later, I said. A woman hurried out of the stone building before he could answer. She had warm brown hair twisted into a messy bun, kind eyes, and the exhausted competence of every medical professional I had ever trusted on site. A pendant at her throat glowed faintly green. Elena, she said softly. Elena's face loosened with relief. The woman's gaze flicked to me, to our joined hands, then to Adrian. Questions filled her expression, but she asked none of them. Smart woman. I'm Sophie Bennett, she said. I'm Elena's healer. Healer, I repeated. Sophie smiled gently. Physician, if that helps. It does not, but I appreciate the effort. Inside the healing center smelled like lavender, antiseptic, and something bright I could not name. Sophie examined Elena with calm efficiency, speaking aloud while signing when needed. Elena refused to let go of me, so I sat beside the examination table and pretended I was not losing my mind. Adrian stood near the doorway, watching. Not hovering exactly. He held himself too still for that. But every time Elena winced, his eyes flashed gold. Every time Sophie touched Elena's leg, his jaw clenched. Every time Elena looked at me instead of him, something complicated moved across his face. Possessiveness, maybe. Pain. Gratitude. A dangerous mixture. Sophie finally stepped back. No concussion. Some muscular strain, elevated stress response, and exhaustion. She needs rest. Adrian nodded. Thank you. Elena signed something. Sophie looked at me. She wants Amaya to stay with her for a while. Of course she did. I rubbed my forehead. Elena, sweetheart, I like you. Truly. But I came to Whistler for a peaceful weekend, not dragons, naked wolves, and mysterious rich men with titles. Elena picked up the notebook Sophie handed her and wrote one word. Please. Damn it. That word had raised 3 boys, drained my savings, and ruined every boundary I had ever tried to build. I exhaled. A little while? Elena smiled. Adrian looked at me like I had handed him something priceless, and he did not know how to hold it. That look was a problem. A big, broad-shouldered, gold-eyed problem. Later, in a room inside the manor that was larger than my entire apartment, and warm with firelight, Elena curled on a sofa beneath a blanket, still gripping my hand. Adrian stood across from us, his presence filling the space without effort. You have questions, he said. I have a list. I will answer what I can. Let me guess, within reason? His mouth curved, barely, but enough to make my stomach do something shameful. Elena's safety comes first, he said. On that we agree. His eyes held mine, and yours. My breath caught before I could stop it. The air between us tightened. Elena suddenly went very still. Her hand slipped from mine. I looked down. Elena? She wasn't looking at me. She was staring at the empty space between Adrian and me. Her eyes had gone wide and luminous, fixed on something I could not see. Slowly, as if afraid the air itself might break, she lifted one trembling hand. Her fingers pinched around nothing. Then the room filled with a soft golden light, and Elena smiled like she had just found a secret the world had tried very hard to hide. For the record, when a silent woman starts smiling at invisible golden light between you and a man everyone calls my lord, the sensible response is to leave, immediately, preferably backward, with a weapon and a prayer. I stayed another 47 minutes. In my defense, Elena still looked exhausted. Sophie was taking her pulse, and Adrian Callahan had positioned himself by the fireplace like a 6'7" gargoyle with money. Every instinct I owned told me not to turn my back on that much controlled intensity. Elena, Adrian said quietly, signing as he spoke. What did you see? The golden light vanished so fast I almost doubted it had been there. Almost. Elena blinked, looked at him, then reached for the notebook on her lap. Her fingers moved carefully. Nothing. I stared at the word. That was a lie. I knew lies. I had raised 3 boys through stolen cookies, broken lamps, secret girlfriends, and one deeply unfortunate incident involving Daniel, a trampoline, and the neighbor's decorative koi pond. Elena was lying. Badly. Adrian seemed to know it too, but he only studied her for a moment before nodding once. Rest. She did not rest. She held my hand until Sophie finally convinced her to drink something herbal that smelled like flowers and witchcraft. Then she wrote one word on the notepad and pushed it toward me. Tomorrow? I looked at it, then at her. Sweetheart, I have a hotel room, a scheduled massage, and a very strong desire to pretend today was a vivid mental breakdown. Her mouth dipped. Damn it. No, I said, pointing at her. Do not make that face. That face is unfair. That face has probably started wars. She added another word beneath the first. Please. My boundaries folded like cheap patio furniture. Which was how, less than 24 hours later, I found myself riding back through the impossible forest road toward Blackthorn Estate in another expensive black SUV, questioning every decision that had brought me there. I had called Marcus before leaving. He was not pleased. You're going back to the secret mountain estate? I didn't say secret. You said the road doesn't show on GPS. That could be bad service. Maya. Fine. Yes, secret mountain estate. Daniel, who had apparently been listening nearby, shouted, Is the mountain man hot? Joshua shouted, Don't answer that. I did not answer, because Adrian Callahan was not hot in a casual, fun vacation fling way. He was hot in a ruin your credit, change your religion, make you forget your own name kind of way. The kind of man a woman with common sense avoided, unless she had excellent health insurance and a therapist on standby. Also, he was possibly a dragon. I had decided not to tell my brothers that part yet. Mostly because I didn't want Daniel asking if Dragon Dick was proportional. By my third visit, I knew 3 things. First, Blackthorn Estate was real, and my brain had stopped trying to reject it every time something supernatural crossed my path. Second, Elena Callahan was a menace wrapped in cream sweaters and innocent eyes. Third, Adrian watched me too much. Not in an obvious way. He didn't leer. He didn't crowd me. He was too controlled for that. But his attention followed me through rooms like warmth from a fire. Quiet, constant, impossible to ignore once I noticed it. And I noticed everything. Elena had me seated beside her in the manor's sunroom, teaching me signs from a battered CSL book while snow drifted softly beyond the glass. Again, she signed. I copied the motion. T. She shook her head and corrected my fingers. I tried again. She smiled. Good? She nodded. I pointed at her, then signed carefully. Bossy. Her eyes widened in delighted offense. You are, I said. Tiny tyrant. A faint sound escaped her. Not a laugh exactly, but close. Across the room, Adrian looked up from the papers in his hand. I felt it the moment his attention landed on us. Elena felt it too. She turned and gave him a smug little wave. His face softened. Barely. But I saw it. That was the problem with him. The more I watched, the harder it became to keep him simple in my head. He was not just intimidating. Not just wealthy. Not just some supernatural lord with a title that made me want to roll my eyes. He was also the man who warmed Elena's tea before handing it to her. The man who slowed his stride without being asked. The man who signed every sentence to his sister even when others talked over her, as if her silence had never made her invisible to him. It was deeply inconvenient. After Elena fell asleep on the sunroom sofa, Adrian walked me toward the front hall himself. You don't have to keep coming, he said. I know. Then why do you? I glanced back at the sunroom. Because she asked. And that is enough? Sometimes. His gaze stayed on my face for too long. You are very loyal. You say that like it's either a compliment or a diagnosis. It can be both. I huffed a laugh before I could stop myself. His mouth curved. Not much. Enough. My body, traitorous little bitch, noticed immediately. I looked away before my common sense filed a formal complaint. The next afternoon, I learned that supernatural men argued exactly like regular men. Louder, more dangerous, and with better cheekbones. I had just helped Sophie carry tea into one of the smaller sitting rooms when raised voices rolled down the hall. Adrian's voice came first, low, controlled. Nathan's followed, rougher and sharper. She has crossed the boundary 4 times in a week, Nathan said. A human. Through the outer ward, through the inner gate, into your private residence. Adrian replied, She comes at Elena's request. That doesn't answer the security concern. It answers mine. It answers your dragon, Nathan snapped, not your head. The air changed. Sophie froze beside me. Elena, tucked into her wheelchair near the window, went still. I looked from Sophie to Elena. Should we be concerned? Sophie pressed her lips together. They won't hurt each other. That wasn't my question. Another sound came from the hallway. A growl, a real one, deep enough to vibrate through the floor. I set the tea tray down. Sophie caught my arm. Amaya, no. I walked into the hall. Adrian and Nathan stood facing each other near the wide staircase, both of them radiating enough testosterone to power a small city. Nathan's eyes had gone wolf bright. Adrian's were gold, not flecked. Gold. Well, fuck me sideways. Adrian's gaze snapped to me. Return to the sitting room. I stopped. Slowly, I lifted one eyebrow. He went silent. Good. Even dragon lords could recognize danger when it was standing 5'1" in winter boots. "No," I said calmly. "Both of you stop." Nathan stared at me like I had lost my mind. Maybe I had. But Elena was behind me, upset and exhausted, and these two overgrown supernatural drama queens were shaking the walls because neither of them had learned indoor voices. "You," I said, pointing at Nathan, "are allowed to have concerns. Congratulations. Security is important." His mouth opened. I turned to Adrian. "And you are allowed to care about your sister. Lovely. Very moving. 10 out of 10 for emotional commitment." Adrian's jaw tightened. "But what we are not going to do is stand outside her room growling like badly trained dogs while she's trying to recover." Nathan made a strangled sound. "Dogs? If the collar fits." Behind me, Elena made a tiny choking noise. I did not turn around. "And if either one of you feels the need to compare fang sizes," I continued, "take it outside, preferably far away from the woman who fell in the woods less than a week ago." Silence dropped over the hall. Complete. Beautiful. Terrified silence. A young man carrying a stack of folded linens stopped at the end of the corridor, eyes wide. Sophie appeared behind me with one hand pressed over her mouth. Nathan looked personally offended. Adrian looked like no one had spoken to him that way in several centuries. Then Elena lost it. She bent forward in her chair, shoulders shaking, one hand pressed to her stomach while breathless, soundless laughter took her apart. I glanced back. "Elena, do not encourage me." That only made it worse. Her face lit up, tears gathering at the corners of her eyes. She pointed at me, then at Adrian, then made a sign I did not know but understood perfectly from the expression alone. Adrian stared at her. Whatever anger remained in him drained out so quickly. It left something raw behind. "Elena," he whispered. She kept laughing. Not politely, not delicately. Fully, helplessly. The kind of laughter that came from somewhere deep and forgotten. Nathan's expression shifted. Sophie's eyes filled with tears, and Adrian Callahan looked as if someone had reached inside his chest and unlocked a door he thought had rusted shut. "She hasn't laughed like that in years," Sophie said softly. I swallowed. Oh, damn. My irritation cooled, replaced by something much more dangerous. Tenderness. Elena wiped her cheek, still smiling, and signed something at Adrian. He watched her hands. Then, slowly, his eyes moved to me. "She says you're right," he said. I folded my arms. Smart woman. "She also says Nathan is a dog." Nathan growled. "I am a wolf." "Close enough," I said. The linen-carrying young man coughed suspiciously. Adrian glanced his way. "Ethan." The young man straightened. "My lord? If you repeat any of this—" "He won't," I interrupted. Adrian looked down at me. I looked up at him. "Because Ethan seems like a nice young man with survival instincts." Ethan nodded rapidly. "Excellent instincts, ma'am." Nathan muttered, "She scolded the Dragon Lord." "I scolded 2 grown men," I said. "Species was secondary." Elena laughed again, and Adrian kept looking at me. Not with irritation this time, with wonder, like he could not decide whether I was a problem or a gift. That look followed me for the rest of the evening. It followed me through tea with Elena, through Sophie's quiet thank you in the hall, through Nathan's begrudging apology that sounded like it physically hurt him to deliver. It followed me to the front doors when I finally decided I needed to return to my hotel before my brothers activated a national search. Elena insisted on seeing me off. She sat in her wheelchair wrapped in a soft blue blanket, her pale blonde hair braided loosely over one shoulder. Adrian stood behind her, one hand resting lightly on the chair, protective without smothering. "You need to rest," I told her. Elena signed something. Adrian translated. "She says you need to come back tomorrow." "I have a life." Elena tilted her head. I sighed. "Fine. I have a hotel room and unanswered texts from men who share my DNA." Her smile turned smug. Adrian reached into his coat and withdrew a small black stone threaded with silver. "For the boundary," he said. "It will not allow you inside alone, but it will keep the road from turning you away if Nathan or I escort you." I took it carefully. Our fingers brushed. Heat snapped through me. Not a spark. A pull. I inhaled sharply. Adrian did too. For one impossible second, the space between our hands shimmered. A thread of gold, thin as silk, stretched from my wrist toward his. I went completely still. Elena lifted her hand. Her fingers moved delicately through empty air. Pinch. Twist. Knot. The thread flashed. Something tugged behind my ribs, intimate and deep, like a finger hooking under my heartbeat. Adrian's eyes turned molten gold, and this time, he looked just as shaken as I felt.
Elena's point of view. People always thought silence was empty. Mine had never been. Even before the threads, before Amaya, before the gold light burning between my brother and the small human woman who made him look less like a dragon lord and more like a man with a heartbeat, my silence had been full. Full of things I could not say, full of things other people assumed I did not notice. Full of Adrian's footsteps outside my door at night, when he thought I was sleeping, full of Nathan's suspicion, full of Sophie's worry, full of my own anger, folded carefully into places no one could reach. But now my silence had become crowded. The golden thread pulsed between Adrian and Amaya, like something alive. I had only meant to touch it. That was what I told myself. A tiny pinch, a twist, a knot so small it should not have mattered. Except the moment I tied it, Amaya sucked in a breath. Adrian's eyes burned dragon gold, and the air in the front hall tasted like lightning. Amaya looked at her wrist. Adrian looked at her. Then both of them looked at me. I lowered my hands into my lap with the innocent expression I had perfected after 27 years of being underestimated. Adrian's voice dropped. "Elena," I signed, tired. His jaw tightened. Amaya stared at me for a long second, her warm brown eyes narrowing. Her thoughts brushed against me, bright and sharp. Little Miss Sweater in silence just did something. I know she did something. My mouth tried very hard not to smile. Then her thoughts continued. Also, why does magical static from this man feel like it just put its hand under my bra? Absolutely not. We are not doing horny witchcraft today. I made the mistake of looking at Adrian's hand. Then I laughed, silently, helplessly, with one hand pressed to my stomach, while Amaya's face went hot with outrage. "Elena," she hissed under her breath, "stay out of my private business." I lifted both hands and signed sorry. I was not sorry, not entirely. People thought my silence made me innocent. It did not. It made me a witness. By the third day after the knot, the world began coming apart in light. At first it happened only when Amaya visited. Her thread to Adrian shimmered faintly at the edge of my vision, gold and stubborn, stretching no matter how far apart they stood. It was thin enough that someone careless might miss it, but I knew better. Fragile things were not always weak. Sometimes fragile meant new. Sometimes it meant unfinished. Then I started seeing other threads. At breakfast, Sophie leaned over my chair to place a hand against my forehead, and soft green strands wrapped around her fingers. Healing, kindness, concern. They braided toward me, warm and steady. When Nathan entered the room, iron gray cords followed him like chains, tied to Adrian, to the estate gates, to the wolves under his command. His threads did not bend easily. Nathan did not bend easily either. A child ran past the open dining room doors with two other children chasing him, and silver lines bounced between them, bright with friendship and mischief. One thread tangled around a half-eaten muffin in his hand. I almost laughed, then the pain hit. It sliced behind my eyes, sudden and vicious. My hand jerked against the table. Sophie saw immediately. "Elena?" I signed with stiff fingers. Too much. Her face changed. Not fear exactly. Sophie was too competent for panic, but her eyes sharpened in the way they did when a body gave her one symptom and a mystery behind it. Too much what? I looked around the room. Threads crossed everywhere. Gold, silver, green, amber, red, blue-white sparks around the wards built into the manor stone. Old family ties wrapped through portraits and floorboards. Promises stitched into wedding rings. Grief knotted around empty chairs. How was I supposed to explain that? I reached for my notebook and wrote slowly. Everything is connected. Sophie read it. Then she looked at Adrian. He had gone very still at the head of the table. I hated when he did that. When he locked everything down until he became only authority and control. People feared him that way. They bowed to him that way. But I remembered him at 21, holding my hair back, when I was sick after our father's funeral. I remembered him burning toast because he insisted he could learn to cook for me. I remembered his hands, too large and uncertain, spelling words into my palm when my voice left, and doctors could not tell him why. He was not cold. He had only learned that if he froze first, no one would see where he bled. Amaya saw it too, not all at once. She noticed him in pieces. That afternoon, she sat beside me in the garden room with her braids falling over one shoulder, helping me reorganize a box of old photographs, because she had discovered I liked putting memories into order. Adrian passed outside the glass doors with Ethan Parker at his side. Ethan was talking quickly, hands moving as if speed might make up for the fact that Adrian's legs were twice as long as his. A little girl came running from one of the cottages, crying over a torn mitten. Adrian stopped. Ethan almost walked into him. The Dragon Lord of Blackthorn Estate crouched in the snow while the child held up the mitten like a tragedy requiring government intervention. Adrian listened solemnly. Then he took the mitten, spoke to Ethan, and waited while the young scout produced a tiny sewing kit from somewhere in his jacket with the expression of a man trained for war and childcare. Amaya watched through the window. Her thoughts came softer than usual. He knows her name. Adrian handed the repaired mitten back. The little girl threw her arms around his neck. He froze for half a second, then carefully patted her back. Amaya's mouth softened. Not a tyrant, then. Bossy as hell, but not cruel. I looked down to hide my smile. Her gaze flicked to me. Don't start. I signed. I said nothing. You thought loudly. I touched my chest, offended. She laughed, warm and low, and the gold thread between her and Adrian brightened from across the yard. I saw it. So did something else. At dusk, Adrian found Amaya in the library. I was already there, curled beneath a blanket on the long window seat. People forgot to include me in rooms when I was quiet. Amaya did not. She had brought me tea and adjusted the blanket over my legs without making a production of it. Adrian entered with 2 books in hand and stopped when he saw us. You're still here, he said to Amaya. I was invited. She glanced at me, aggressively. I widened my eyes. Adrian's mouth curved. She does that. She looks fragile, but she has the willpower of a debt collector. I signed, Rude. Amaya looked at my hands. Accurate. Adrian sat across from her and the room changed. It always did when they occupied the same space. Not dramatically, no thunder, no music, just pressure. Heat beneath stone. A slow pull neither of them understood and both of them pretended not to feel. Humans were funny that way. Dragons too. Adrian opened one of the books but did not read it. You said your brothers are grown. Amaya's smile shifted. That sounded dangerously like a question. It was. Nosy. Yes. She looked surprised, then amused, then wary, her fingers wrapped around her mug. Marcus is 29, Daniel's 26, Joshua's 23. You raised them. It was not a question this time. Amaya looked into her tea. The thought that slipped from her was not funny. It was old and tired. Somebody had to. My mother got sick when I was 16, she said. My father was already more absent than parent. Marcus tried to help, but he was 14. Daniel was 11. Joshua was 8 and still sleeping with a nightlight because he thought monsters lived in the closet. Adrian's hand tightened around the spine of his book. Amaya gave a small shrug, but I saw the thread around her shoulders. Thick, heavy, worn smooth by years of carrying weight without naming it. So I handled it, she continued. School forms, lunches, bills, doctor appointments, groceries. Parent-teacher meetings where grown adults talked to me like I was playing dress-up in responsibility. Her mouth tilted. I learned fast. Adrian's gaze had gone dark and intent. And who cared for you? The question landed like a blade set gently on a table. Amaya went quiet, her thoughts stilled. That was worse than pain. Finally, she said, I didn't need much. Adrian's eyes flashed gold. I felt his thread surge toward her, fierce and protective. Liar, it seemed to say. Amaya felt it too. Her breath caught, then her thoughts betrayed her. If this man keeps looking at me like he wants to murder my loneliness, I'm going to do something stupid, like climb him. God help me, his forearms are a public safety issue. I choked. Tea went up my nose. Amaya's head snapped toward me. Elena. I signed quickly. Sorry. Again, not entirely true. I loved Amaya. I did not need to know what her pussy thought of my brother's forearms, but the universe had apparently decided I should suffer. Adrian looked between us. What did I miss? Nothing, Amaya said too quickly. I nodded solemnly. His eyes narrowed. He knew we were lying. He let us. That night, the threads would not let me sleep. They tugged at me from beneath the manor, from the cottages, from the training fields, from the lake crusted with moonlit ice. I sat up in bed, trembling, my hands pressed to my mouth as if I could hold the light inside. Gold for Adrian and Amaya, green for Sophie, iron for Nathan, amber for family, silver for friendship. Blue-white for wards, and then black, one thread, thin as a hair, dark as old blood under water. It did not glow. It swallowed. My bedroom door was ajar. Beyond it, the hallway waited in shadow. I should have called for Adrian. I should have pressed the bell Sophie kept beside my bed. I should have done any number of sensible things. Instead, I reached for my cane. The black thread slid along the floorboards ahead of me, almost playful, almost aware. It moved through the manor as if it knew the house, past portraits of Callahan's long dead, past the corridor leading to Adrian's study, past a vase of white roses someone had sent that afternoon. For 1 second, the roses turned black at the edges. My stomach clenched. I followed the thread to the top of the stairs. Then it snapped upward, not away, into me. The hallway vanished. I stood in snow. No, not stood. I was seeing. The courtyard burned around me, flames climbing into the winter sky. Wolves snarled at the gates. Witches screamed words that tore blue sparks from the air. Above it all, a dragon roared so violently the mountains shook. Adrian. But not as I knew him. His grief had made him monstrous. On the ground before him lay Amaya. Her braids spilled across the snow. Her warm brown skin was marked with blood. Too much blood. Her chest did not rise. The golden thread between her and Adrian hung in 2 severed pieces, and wrapped around her throat like a noose was the black thread. I woke up choking on a scream I could not make. The vision left the taste of blood in my mouth, though when I pressed trembling fingers to my lips, they came away clean. My cane lay across the hallway floor. I had fallen near the top of the stairs, one hand still reaching toward a thread no one else could see. Amaya in the snow, Amaya not breathing, the golden bond cut in two, the black thread around her throat. My chest convulsed. No sound came out. Elena? Adrian was there so quickly he might have torn himself out of the dark. One moment the hallway was empty, the next, my brother crouched in front of me, barefoot, hair disheveled, eyes burning gold. His hands hovered near me, enormous and careful. What happened? He asked, signing with sharp, controlled motions. I could not answer. My mind was still in the snow, still watching Amaya's warm brown skin marked with blood, still hearing the horrible silence where her heartbeat should have been. Adrian's expression changed. Not much. Enough. Elena, his voice dropped. Who hurt you? His thoughts hit me like heat through a closed door. Who touched her? Who entered the manor? I will burn their bones from the mountain. I grabbed his wrist. He went still. My fingers shook so badly I could barely sign. Amaya. Every trace of sleep left his face. What about Amaya? I reached for the notebook I had dropped. The pen had rolled beneath the console table. Adrian retrieved it before I could point, pressing it into my hand with the patience of a man standing at the edge of violence. I wrote 3 words. Amaya dies soon. The pen tore through the paper on the last letter. Adrian did not move. For 1 second, even his breathing stopped. Then the hallway grew hot. Not warm. Hot. The sconces along the wall flickered. Somewhere below, glass cracked. No, Adrian said, not denial, a command. As if death itself had been summoned before the Dragon Lord and found guilty. I wrote again, harder. Black thread. His gaze lifted to mine. He did not understand. Not fully, but he understood danger. He understood Amaya's name beside the word dies. That was enough to wake the dragon. By morning, Blackthorn Estate had become a fortress inside a fortress. Wolves patrolled the inner roads. Witches moved along the ward stones, whispering over blue-white sparks. Nathan barked orders with the grim satisfaction of someone who'd been warning everyone for days and hated being right. Adrian said very little. That was worse. He did not pace, he did not shout. He did not threaten. He stood in the command room near the east windows, dressed in black, his expression calm enough to frighten every person who entered. Only I could see the gold thread trembling from his chest, reaching toward Whistler Village, toward Amaya. Only I could hear what moved beneath his silence. Mine, then immediately after. No, not mine, not unless she chooses. Then, but I will not lose her. The thoughts came unevenly, as if his dragon and his man were fighting with the same mouth. Nathan stood across from him, arms folded. I put Ethan at her hotel. Adrian's eyes cut to him. Discreetly, Nathan paused. That pause said everything. I closed my eyes. By noon, Amaya arrived at Blackthorn Estate, wearing dark jeans, winter boots, a cream sweater beneath her coat, and the expression of a woman prepared to commit a polite homicide. Ethan trailed behind her, looking deeply ashamed. Amaya stepped into the manor's front hall, spotted Adrian, and lifted one finger. You. Adrian turned from the fireplace. I felt the whole room tighten around him. Amaya. No. Don't say my name in that calm voice. Did you put a tail on me? A guard, Adrian said. A tail. For your protection. A grown man crouching behind a decorative bear in a hotel lobby, pretending to read the same ski brochure for 40 minutes, is not protection. That is surveillance with poor acting. Ethan winced. I was not crouching. Nathan from near the door muttered, You were crouching. Amaya turned her glare on him. And you, stop looking like you want to sniff my passport. Nathan's mouth opened. I started laughing before I could stop myself. Not loudly, never loudly, but my shoulders shook hard enough that Sophie, standing beside my wheelchair, pressed a hand to her lips. Adrian did not laugh. His gaze moved over Amaya in one long, controlled sweep, checking for injury, fear, anything out of place. The gold thread between them brightened until it hurt to look at. Amaya noticed his stare, her thoughts flared bright and indignant. If he keeps looking at me like that, I'm either going to slap him or climb him. Possibly both. Fucking hell. Why does danger have shoulders? I made a small sound. She snapped her eyes to me. Do not! I signed. I did nothing. You did something with your face? I did not argue. My face was guilty. Adrian stepped closer. You should have waited for me to send a car. I drove myself. You should not have. Her chin lifted. You don't get to decide what I should do. I do when there is a threat. Then explain the threat. Silence. There it was, the wall. Adrian's control lowered between them, heavy and old. I hated it. Not because he meant harm, but because he had used silence as armor for so long, he forgot it could become a weapon. Amaya's anger cooled into something sharper. You sent someone to watch me, she said. You dragged me into a world with dragons, wolves, witches, titles, magic boundaries, and whatever else you haven't bothered telling me. Now you're standing there acting like you have the right to manage my life because you're scared of something, but you won't tell me what it is. Adrian's jaw flexed. She took one step closer, and though she was so much smaller than him, the hall seemed to understand she was not less. Try me, she said. His thoughts rolled through me, rough and fierce. If I tell her she is my mate, she will think fate is a cage. She deserves choice. She deserves courtship, gentleness, time. His dragon answered beneath it. Tell her, claim, protect. Adrian said aloud, Not yet. Amaya stared at him, then she laughed once without humor. That is a bullshit answer. Yes, he said quietly. The honesty seemed to hit her harder than an excuse would have. Her lips parted. The thread between them pulled tight. Heat gathered there. Want, fear, curiosity. The unbearable ache of two people standing too close to something neither knew how to name. Then Nathan's head snapped toward the western windows. His nostrils flared. Adrian turned at the same time. Every wolf in the hall went still. I saw it a heartbeat later, a black thread sliding beneath the front doors. Thin, hungry, wrong. I grabbed my wheels and pushed toward Amaya. Sophie caught my chair. Elena? I pointed. No one understood. Then the ward bells screamed. The sound tore through the estate, deep and metallic, vibrating in my bones. Outside, shouts rose from the courtyard. A child cried. Boots thundered over stone. Adrian moved. One moment he stood before Amaya. The next, he was at the doors. Black coat snapping behind him as he stepped into the snow. Amaya followed. Of course she did, because Amaya Hurts had never seen danger and thought, That seems like someone else's problem. I pushed after them, Sophie cursing softly as she helped guide my chair over the threshold. The courtyard had become chaos. Wolves ran along the inner wall. Witches stood in a half circle near the fountain, hands raised, magic crackling blue around their fingers. Near the children's grounds, the air itself had torn open. Something crawled through. It wore the shape of a wolf, the way a nightmare wore a familiar face. Too long, too thin. Smoke-black fur clung to bones that bent in the wrong places. Its eyes had been stitched shut with black thread, and it was looking straight at Amaya. No, not looking, hunting. The black thread around its throat snapped forward, stretching toward her like a leash pulled from the other side. I tried to scream. Nothing. I slapped my hand against the arm of my chair hard enough to hurt. Amaya turned. A little girl stood frozen between her and the creature, mitten dangling from one hand. Amaya's thoughts came clear as struck glass. Child. Move the child. She ran. Not away. Toward. Adrian roared her name. Amaya shoved the girl behind her just as the creature lunged. Its claws caught her arm. Blood spattered the snow. The world stopped. Then Adrian's dragon came out. It was not like watching a man change. It was like watching the mountain remember it had teeth. Gold fire cracked over his skin. His human shape expanded, broke, remade itself in a rush of scale and wing and ancient fury. Black gold armor rippled across his body. Horns swept back from a massive skull. His wings unfurled so wide they shadowed the courtyard. The Dragon Lord hit the ground between Amaya and the creature with enough force to split the stone beneath the snow. Everyone froze, even Nathan. The sound Adrian made was not a growl. It was judgment. The creature tried to retreat, too late. Fire poured from Adrian's mouth, white gold and merciless. It struck the shadow beast head-on. The thing shrieked without sound, thrashing as the black thread around its throat writhed and burned. Adrian did not stop. The fire kept coming. Hotter, brighter, terrible. Witches stumbled backward. Wolves lowered themselves to the ground. The child Amaya had saved began sobbing into her mother's coat. Amaya stood in the snow with blood running down her arm, staring up at the enormous dragon who had placed himself between her and death. Her thoughts were silent. For once, utterly silent. Adrian turned his massive head toward her. His gold eyes fixed on the blood. A low, broken rumble rolled out of him. Hurt. The thought was not human. Mine hurt. He took one careful step toward her, claws sinking into stone. Nathan moved, voice tight. My lord. Adrian ignored him. Amaya swallowed. Then slowly, she lifted her uninjured hand. Adrian? The dragon stopped. Her voice did what no command could. His rage did not vanish. It folded inward, shaking the air around him. Barely contained. He lowered his head until his muzzle hovered inches from her bleeding arm. Amaya did not run. She should have. Anyone sensible would have. Instead, she whispered, I'm okay. She was lying. The golden thread between them blazed, and beneath it, in the charred remains of the shadow creature, the black thread stirred. I saw it slide out from the ash, and not away from the estate, toward it, past Adrian's claws, past Nathan's boots, through the gathered wolves and witches, into the crowd of people who had come running from the safety of Blackthorn's walls. My stomach dropped. The black thread had not come from the forest. It had come from inside. And when I lifted my eyes to follow it, it curled around the wrist of someone standing among our own. The black thread curled around a wrist in the crowd. For one heartbeat, I saw it clearly. Thin, hungry, alive. Then the courtyard moved. Wolves surged forward. Witches broke formation. Sophie ran toward Amaya. Nathan shouted orders, and Adrian's dragon lowered his enormous head with a sound that made the manor windows tremble. The wrist disappeared. No face, no name, only a glimpse of a dark sleeve and a silver ring shaped like a thorn. I pushed my chair forward, frantic, but pain tore through my skull so sharply the world fractured into gold and black. Elena! Sophie called. I could not answer. I could not scream. All I could do was stare at the place where the thread had vanished among our own people. Inside. The enemy was inside Blackthorn. Then Amaya swayed. Everything else ceased to matter. Adrian's dragon moved before anyone else could. He stepped between her and the entire courtyard, wings flaring wide enough to cast half the world in shadow. Blood ran down Amaya's arm, bright against her warm brown skin, dripping onto the snow. She looked very small beneath him, not weak, never weak, just human, breakable in a way none of us were prepared for. "I'm fine," she said. Her thoughts whispered the truth beneath it. "I am not fine. That hurt like a bitch. But if this dragon panics any harder, he's going to eat someone, and I do not have the energy for emotional dragon management today." A laugh tried to rise in me and got caught behind terror. Adrian's gold eyes fixed on her bleeding arm. The sound he made was low enough to shake loose snow from the roof. Nathan stepped closer, cautious. "My lord." Adrian ignored him. Amaya lifted her uninjured hand toward the dragon's muzzle. "Adrian!" One word, his name in her mouth. It reached him. I saw it enter the gold thread between them and travel like fire through a fuse. The dragon's fury did not disappear, but it bent, curved around her voice, obeyed it. Slowly, light cracked over his scales. His massive shape folded inward, gold flame wrapping around black wings, shrinking muscle and bone and ancient rage until my brother stood in the snow again. Naked, of course. Dragon shifting never cared about clothing. Someone behind me gasped. Nathan swore and threw his coat at Adrian with the speed of a man who had spent years preventing public disasters. Amaya turned her head away so fast one of her braids swung across her cheek. Her thoughts unfortunately turned slower. Do not look at the Dragon Lord's dick while bleeding in public. Do not. Be a lady, be mature. You have health insurance and self-respect. Mostly. I pressed both hands over my mouth. This was not the time. This was absolutely not the time. A tiny sound still escaped me. Amaya's eyes cut to mine. "Elena." I lowered my hands and tried to look tragic. She narrowed her eyes. "Don't you dare!" Adrian, now wrapped in Nathan's coat, looked between us with suspicion sharpening through the violence still burning in him. "What?" he asked. "Nothing," Amaya said. I nodded. Nathan looked unconvinced. "Why do I feel like I don't want to know?" Amaya pressed her hand over the wound on her arm. "Because you have survival instincts." Sophie arrived then, all healer and no hesitation. "Inside. Now." "I can walk," Amaya said. Adrian reached for her. She gave him one look. He stopped. I loved her for that. Even injured, even surrounded by dragons and wolves and witches, Amaya Hurts refused to let anyone turn her into luggage. "I said I can walk," she repeated. Adrian's jaw worked once. "Then walk beside me." Not behind me, beside. She noticed too. Her thoughts went quiet and soft at the edges. Damn him. The healing center smelled sharper after blood. Lavender, antiseptic, burned magic, and fear. Sophie sat Amaya on the examination bed and cut the ruined sleeve from her arm. The wound was not as deep as it could have been, but the claw marks were ugly. 4 red lines from wrist to elbow, oozing where shadow poison smoked faintly at the edges. Adrian stood in the doorway because Sophie had ordered him not to hover. He hovered from the doorway. Nathan guarded the hall. I sat close enough to Amaya that my knee brushed the side of the bed. She noticed my shaking hands before anyone else did. "Hey," she said softly. "I'm okay." She was lying again, but gently. For me. I reached for her uninjured hand. The moment our fingers touched, the room steadied. The threads, which had been screaming since the attack, softened into lines I could see without drowning. Sophie's green magic, Nathan's iron gray vigilance, Adrian's gold fire, the injured red pulse of Amaya's blood, and beneath her blood, something else. Not witchcraft, not dragon power. Not wolf, not fae, not anything Sophie had books for. Amaya's blood held a faint inner shimmer like sunlight trapped in old amber. Human, yes. Deeply human. But threaded with something older than the borders supernatural people love drawing around themselves. It did not feel like power. It felt like a key. I stared. Amaya looked down at me. "What?" I signed before thinking. "Your blood is strange?" Her eyebrows rose. "That is a rude thing to say to someone currently donating it to your floor." Sophie froze. "Strange how?" I did not know how to explain, so I looked at the gold thread between Amaya and Adrian. Really looked. The thread was not new. I had been wrong. The little knot I tied had not created anything. It had only pulled loose a veil. The bond stretched from Amaya's chest to Adrian's, bright and stubborn, but behind it were layers. Older strands wound beneath the visible one, buried deep in time. I followed them and saw flashes that were not memories, not exactly. A mountain before Blackthorn had walls, a dragon older than Adrian roaring into a storm, a woman with brown hands pressing a blood-marked palm to stone. My father, Richard Callahan, younger and grim, standing before a sealed door beneath the estate, a thread cut, a thread hidden, a thread waiting. Then darkness trying to saw through gold before either Adrian or Amaya had taken their first breaths. My stomach turned. This bond had not begun when Adrian found us in the woods. It had been waiting for them. It had been hunted for years. Maybe longer. Adrian must have seen my face change because he stepped into the room despite Sophie's glare. Elena. I pulled my notebook toward me with clumsy hands and wrote, "The bond is old." His eyes dropped to the paper, then to Amaya. She went very still. "What bond?" No one spoke. Sophie looked at Adrian. Nathan appeared in the doorway, his expression hard. Adrian closed his eyes for half a second. When he opened them, he looked more human than I had ever seen him. Not weaker, never that, but exposed in a way that frightened him. "Everyone out," he said. Nathan began, "My lord." "Out." The command rolled through the room. Sophie hesitated only long enough to cover Amaya's clean wound with a temporary bandage. Then she touched my shoulder and guided my chair toward the door. I locked the wheels. "No." Adrian looked at me. I signed, "Tell her." His face tightened. "Now," I added. Amaya looked between us. "Tell me what?" My brother stood at the foot of the examination bed, wearing Nathan's coat over bare skin, blood and ash streaking one side of his throat. The Dragon Lord of Blackthorn Estate looked like he would rather face an army than the woman in front of him. That was how I knew she mattered. "I should have told you sooner," he said. Amaya's laugh was short and humorless. That sentence never leads anywhere relaxing. "No," he agreed. "It does not." The gold thread between them pulsed. I could hear his thoughts now, not clearly, but enough. Do not cage her. Do not frighten her. She deserves choice. Beneath that, the dragon's thought burned hotter. "Mate?" Amaya's eyes narrowed. "Adrian." He inhaled slowly. "Dragons have mates." Her face did not change at first, but her thoughts did. They scattered like startled birds. "No, absolutely not. This is not happening. I did not drive to Whistler, get adopted by a psychic cinnamon roll, attacked by a nightmare wolf, and nearly see dragon dick just to be told I'm in a supernatural arranged marriage." My hands tightened around the wheels of my chair. Adrian continued, voice low. "A mate is not a wife, not automatically. It is not ownership. It is not consent. It is recognition." "Recognition," she repeated. "Yes." "Of what?" His eyes flashed gold, then settled. "Of the one person my dragon knows above all others." Amaya stared at him. The room went quiet enough that I could hear snow sliding from the roof outside. "You think I'm your mate," she said. "No." His voice roughened. "I know you are." Her breath caught. So did mine. The bond blazed so brightly I had to look away. Amaya slid off the examination bed, ignoring Adrian's instinctive move toward her. She stood in front of him with a bandaged arm, blood on her sweater, chin lifted, 5 feet 1 inch of human will facing a dragon lord who could burn cities. "And when were you planning to tell me?" she asked. "When you were safe." "That's convenient." "When you trusted me." "That's arrogant." His mouth tightened. "Yes." Her expression flickered. He did not defend himself. That seemed to matter to her. "I did not want fate to be the reason you stayed," he said. The honesty landed harder than any command could have. Amaya's thoughts went quiet, then softer. "God damn it, my chest hurt. I wanted to reach for the thread, to strengthen it, to protect it from the blackness hunting it." My fingers twitched in my lap. Then I looked at Amaya. I remembered how she had asked me if I felt safe, how she had asked before touching, how she had never once mistaken need for permission. Slowly, I lowered my hands. This choice had to be hers. Amaya looked at Adrian for a long time. "I feel something," she said finally. Adrian went utterly still. "I don't know what it is," she continued, "and I'm not going to pretend I don't notice you, because I'm grown and I have eyes." His gaze darkened. A flush warmed her cheeks, but she did not look away. "But I spent most of my life being needed," she said. "Needed by my brothers, needed at work, needed by everyone who knew I would show up because I always did." Her voice shook once, then steadied. I am not stepping into another role just because destiny put my name on it. Adrian's face changed. Pain, respect, want, all tangled together. I would never force you. I believe that, she said, the gold thread trembled. Her next words cut through it anyway. But I need time, Adrian. Behind her, near the baseboard, the black thread slid silently beneath the door.
I asked for time. The universe, being a petty bitch, gave me approximately 7 seconds. Adrian stood in front of me with Nathan's coat hanging open over his bare chest, gold still flickering in his eyes, and said, "Then take it. No argument? No demand? No wounded male pride dressed up as romance? Just those 3 words, low and steady, like he had placed them at my feet, and stepped back. That should not have made my throat tighten. I lifted my chin anyway. Don't say it like that. Like what? Like you mean it forever." His gaze darkened. I do. Well, fuck. My body, which had already survived 1 supernatural attack, blood loss, emotional whiplash, and an accidental near viewing of Dragon Lord Dick, decided that was the moment to remember. It had a pulse in places that were none of its business. Elena made a strangled little sound beside us. I pointed at her without looking away from Adrian. "Do not laugh at my private thoughts right now. I am wounded." Her shoulders shook once, then stopped. The change was immediate. I turned. Elena's attention had fixed on the door. Not the door itself, the floor beneath it. Her fingers curled around the arms of her wheelchair until her knuckles went tight. Her eyes widened, tracking something I could not see. "Elena?" I asked. She lifted one trembling hand and signed too fast for me to catch. Adrian caught it. His entire body went still. "What do you mean, Black?" he asked. Before she could answer, the healing center doors opened. A woman stepped inside as if she owned the floor beneath her. She was beautiful in the way expensive knives were beautiful. Sleek, sharp, and designed to make bleeding look elegant. Dark hair swept into a smooth knot. Burgundy coat tailored perfectly. Matching lipstick. Diamonds at her ears. On her right hand, a silver ring curved around her finger in the shape of a thorn. Elena recoiled. Adrian moved in front of me before I blinked. Not dramatically. Not with a speech. 1 second I could see the woman clearly. The next, I had a wall of bare-backed Dragon Lord between us. The woman's mouth curved. Adrian. His voice dropped into something that made the room colder. Victoria. Victoria Hayes. The name meant nothing to me, but the reaction did. Nathan appeared in the doorway behind her, teeth bared. Sophie was beside him, hands already glowing green. "You were not permitted entry," Adrian said. Victoria's smile widened. "The Western Accord grants passage during an attack on Allied territory. Or did you forget the treaties while hovering over your little human?" Little human. My patience, already limping, sat down and died. I leaned around Adrian's side. "I know you did not just walk in here dressed like a wine bottle and start being condescending." Nathan made a sound behind her. Sophie whispered, "Oh, hell." Victoria's eyes slid to me. They were gray, lovely, dead as winter water. "So this is her," she murmured, "the human mate." The room changed. Adrian's growl rolled through the floor. I stopped breathing. Not because of the sound, because Victoria had known. She had walked into that room already knowing something Adrian had apparently only worked up the nerve to tell me 5 minutes ago. My stomach tightened. "How do you know that?" Victoria did not answer me. She looked at Elena instead. "And the Threadborn finally wakes." Elena's face emptied. Adrian's voice went lethally soft. "What did you call my sister?" Victoria lifted her hand. The silver thorn ring split open. Black lines spilled from it like ink dropped into water. Only they were not lines. Threads. I saw them. Actually saw them. They crawled across the floor, up the walls, beneath the examination bed, around the wheels of Elena's chair. Thin and hungry, moving with a horrible kind of purpose. "Elena!" I lunged for her. Adrian moved at the same time. So did Nathan. The world exploded. Sophie threw up a shield of green light. Nathan shifted mid-leap, clothes tearing as a massive wolf hit the floor snarling. Adrian's skin flashed gold, scales breaking along his arms and throat. Victoria only smiled. "Careful," she said. "This spell was woven long before tonight. Pull too hard and you'll cut what you're trying to save." The black thread snapped tight. Elena's chair jerked backward. I grabbed her hand. The moment our fingers touched, heat rushed through my injured arm. Not pain. Recognition. My blood burned beneath the bandage, and Elena's eyes flared with gold-white light. For 1 second, everything stopped. I saw a golden thread running from my chest to Adrian's. Not imagined. Not metaphorical. Real. Bright. Furious. Victoria's expression sharpened. "There you are," Adrian roared. The windows cracked. Victoria flicked her fingers, and the black threads whipped around Elena's wrists, her waist, her throat. Not choking, but claiming. "No!" I held on harder. Elena looked at me. Her eyes were terrified. Then she shoved me away. Not because she wanted to leave me, because something black had shot toward my neck. Adrian caught me before I hit the floor, one arm locking around my waist. Fire burst from his free hand, but Victoria was already stepping backward into a tear of shadow opening behind her. Elena disappeared through it. The last thing I saw was her hand reaching for me. Then the tear sealed. Silence hit like a physical blow. For 1 awful second, no one moved. Then Adrian lost control. Gold fire erupted around him. The floor beneath his feet split. His bones shifted under his skin, dragon pushing against man, grief turning every line of him monstrous. "I will burn her territory to ash," he said. His voice was not fully human. Nathan, back in human form, and naked without a single ounce of shame, crouched near the door. "Adrian!" "Do not!" The command cracked through the room. Nathan flinched. So did Sophie. I did not. Maybe because I was stupid. Maybe because I had raised boys through fever, grief, rage, and fear. Maybe because Elena had reached for me in the woods and trusted me before she understood why. I stepped in front of Adrian. His eyes burned down at me. "Move, Amaya." "No." His nostrils flared. "She took Elena." "I know. She tried to take you." "I know that too." "Then move." I reached up, grabbed his face between my hands, and ignored the heat of his skin. "If you go charging into this like a pissed-off nuclear lizard, Victoria wins." His chest heaved. The gold thread between us blazed so bright I could feel it behind my ribs. "She has my sister," he said, and beneath the fury I heard the boy who had raised a little girl alone. My anger broke around the edges. "I know," I whispered. "So we get her back." His gaze sharpened. "You are staying here." I laughed once, ugly, humorless. "Try again." "No. You don't get to know me. She wants you too." "Then she can be disappointed like everybody else." Nathan swore under his breath. Sophie pressed both hands to her temples like we were giving her a migraine. Adrian leaned down until his face was inches from mine. "You are human. Yes, we established this repeatedly, rudely. You are hurt. And still standing. You could die. So could Elena." That landed. His jaw clenched. I held his stare. She chose me in the woods. She held my hand. She asked me to stay. I don't abandon people who become mine. The gold in his eyes flickered. Mine. The word hung between us. Not possession. Family. Promise. Adrian closed his eyes for one brief second. When he opened them, the man had wrestled the dragon back by the throat. "If you come," he said, voice rough. "You listen when I tell you to move. I listen when people make sense." Nathan muttered, "We are all going to die," I looked at him. Put some pants on before you prophesy. Sophie barked a laugh that sounded half hysterical. We found Elena because Victoria wanted us to. That was the part nobody said aloud during the frantic rush from the healing center to the East Terrace, but I knew it. Victoria had left a trail, and everyone with supernatural senses could smell the trap. Brandywine Falls. The first water Richard Callahan sealed. Adrian shifted on the terrace beneath a bruised winter sky. One moment he was a man. The next, he was impossible. Black gold scales, vast wings, ancient power radiating from every inch of him. And I, apparently having suffered a full break from common sense, climbed onto a dragon. "If you drop me," I shouted over the wind, clutching the ridges at the base of his neck, "I will haunt you with extreme commitment." His answering rumble vibrated through my thighs. "Not the time, pussy. Absolutely not the time." We flew. The cold tore tears from my eyes. Mountains swept beneath us, dark with pine and snow. The roar of Brandywine Falls reached us before I saw it. A white rush of water plunging into shadow. Behind the falls, hidden by mist and old magic, waited a stone arch carved into the cliff. Adrian landed hard. Nathan and Sophie arrived moments later with Ethan and 3 wolves. The arch rejected them all. Blue-black light flashed whenever Adrian approached. Sophie cursed. "Blood ward." Adrian sliced his palm open without hesitation and pressed it to the stone. Nothing. Victoria's laughter drifted from inside. "Not dragon blood, darling." My injured arm throbbed. Everyone turned toward me. I sighed. Of course, because why would my blood mind its own damn business? Adrian's face went hard. No, I was already unwrapping the bandage. He caught my wrist, careful despite the violent shaking through him. "Amaya!" "Elena is inside." His grip trembled, then released. I pressed my bleeding arm to the arch. The ward opened. Inside, the chamber was carved from black stone and lit by witch fire. Victoria stood in the center of a ritual circle with 6 others wearing silver thorn rings. Elena was suspended above the floor, bound in black threads. My heart stopped. Victoria smiled at me. "The key comes willingly. How generous." Adrian's dragon fire lit the chamber gold. Victoria snapped her fingers. A black thread shot toward my throat. Elena's eyes flew open. Victoria leaned close to her. "Sever the mate bond, Threadborn. Cut him from her or watch the human bleed." The thread tightened around my neck. Adrian roared my name. Elena looked at me, then at Adrian. Then her bound hands moved, not toward the gold thread, toward the black one. Victoria's smile vanished. Elena gripped the darkness with both trembling hands, and cut. Elena cut the black thread. The world tore open, not physically. The stone chamber behind Brandywine Falls did not split in half. The ceiling did not collapse. The water kept roaring somewhere beyond the hidden walls. But something old screamed. The sound went through my bones, through my blood, through places in me I had not known existed until magic decided to start rearranging my damn life. The thread around my throat snapped loose. I hit the floor hard, coughing, one hand clawing at my neck. Air scraped into my lungs. Adrian was there before I could fully breathe, his arms closing around me, hot and shaking. Gold scales covered one side of his face and ran down his throat beneath the torn remains of his shirt. "Amaya." "I'm breathing," I rasped. His eyes burned bright enough to light the chamber. "Barely." "Still counts." His jaw tightened like he wanted to argue with my definition of alive. Across the ritual circle, Victoria Hayes staggered backward. Her pretty silver thorn ring had cracked down the center. Black smoke leaked from it, hissing against her skin. Elena hung above the floor, no longer limp, no longer frightened. Threads surrounded her in impossible layers, gold, white, blue, silver, red, and terrible severed strands of black curling at her feet like dead snakes. Her blue-gray eyes had gone luminous, filled with light that did not belong to any dragon, witch, wolf, or human thing I had ever seen. For the first time since I met her, Elena looked exactly as dangerous as everyone else should have known she was. Victoria stared at her with naked fury. "You stupid little relic." Adrian's growl turned the air sharp. "Call my sister little again," he said softly, "and I will make your death slow enough to educate you." Under normal circumstances, I might have appreciated the line more. Unfortunately, my throat hurt like hell, my arm was still bleeding, and 6 witches in matching thorn rings were beginning to rise from the shattered ritual circle. Nathan hit the first one as a wolf. There were few things in life more educational than watching a naked, sarcastic man become a massive, snarling animal and tackle a witch into a stone wall. Sophie threw green fire at the second. Ethan shifted halfway, wings bursting from his back, as he dragged another attacker away from Elena's circle. Victoria lifted both hands. The black threads answered. Adrian shoved me behind him. "Stay down." I clutched the back of his ruined shirt. "If you think I came all this way to politely sit on the floor, you have misunderstood our relationship." He looked over his shoulder. Even now, blood, danger, evil witchcraft, possible death. That word landed between us. Relationship. His eyes flared gold. "Later," he said. "That better be a promise." "It is." Then he breathed fire. White gold flame poured across the chamber. The witches screamed. Victoria's shadows rose to meet it, black against gold, the collision shaking dust from the ceiling. Elena's hands moved. I had learned enough of her signing to catch only pieces. No, more threads. Then she gripped the air. Every silver thorn ring in the chamber shattered. The witches collapsed, as if their bones had been cut from their bodies. Victoria screamed, a raw sound that stripped all the elegance from her face. "You think this saves you?" she hissed. Her gaze found me over Adrian's shoulder. "The key has awakened the Threadborn. The old covens will come for both of them now." Adrian stepped forward. Victoria smiled through blood-stained teeth. Richard should have killed the girl when he had the chance. The temperature dropped. For one heartbeat, my dragon lord went utterly still. Then his dragon answered. The roar that came out of him was not rage. It was apocalypse. Victoria vanished into a slash of shadow a second before Adrian's fire hit the place where she had been standing. The stone melted. The remaining black threads curled into ash. Elena fell. Adrian moved. He caught his sister out of the air and went to his knees with her gathered against his chest. All the gold fire vanished from him so abruptly, the chamber seemed darker. "Elena!" His voice broke on her name. She blinked up at him, exhausted and trembling. Then she lifted one hand and touched his cheek. Adrian closed his eyes. I looked away because some love was too private to watch, even while standing in a murder cave with my neck bruised and my life in supernatural shambles. Sophie hurried over, already cursing. "Everyone alive?" Nathan shifted back into human form beside a fallen witch, naked again, bloody, unbothered. "Mostly," he said. I pointed at him without turning my head fully. "Pants." He looked down. "Now?" "Yes, now. I have had enough trauma tonight without your dick entering the scenery." Ethan made a strangled sound. Sophie laughed like she might cry. Adrian lifted Elena carefully. "We're leaving." Nobody argued. Smart people. Back at Blackthorn, the healing center became a storm of magic, bandages, orders, and exhausted bodies. Sophie treated my throat first. The black thread had left a bruised ring around my neck, ugly but shallow. My arm needed fresh work. Shadow poison had burned along the claw marks, but apparently my strange blood, a phrase I still hated, had slowed it. That was comforting in the same way being told my house fire had excellent ventilation would be comforting. Elena slept for 12 hours. Adrian did not leave her bedside. Neither did I. At some point near dawn, he brought me tea with honey and lemon. He set it beside me without a word, then adjusted the blanket around my shoulders like he had done it 100 times. I watched his large hands move with ridiculous gentleness. You're hovering, I murmured. Yes. At least you admit it. His mouth almost smiled. I am trying to do it respectfully. You are failing with dignity. This time the smile came. Small. Devastating. My poor, confused pussy apparently had no survival instincts, because it clenched like we were not sitting beside his unconscious sister after escaping ritual sacrifice. I took a careful sip of tea. Elena made a soft, breathy sound. Her eyes opened. Adrian was instantly leaning over her. Elena? She looked at him, then at me. Then she fumbled weakly for her notebook. Sophie tried to stop her. Elena gave her one look. Sophie stepped back. Fine. Stubborn family. Elena wrote with a shaking hand. Threadborn. Adrian stared at the word. Elena turned the page. Father knew. Silence settled over the room. Adrian's face changed in a way that hurt to witness. Anger, grief, betrayal. All of it locked behind control because Elena was awake, and he would never make his pain her burden. What are you? He asked softly. Elena swallowed, then wrote again. Not dragon. Not witch. Older. Sophie pressed a hand to her mouth. Nathan, standing at the door with blessed pants on, muttered, Fuck. I reached for Elena's fingers. The second our hands touched, the faint shimmer beneath my skin warmed. Elena relaxed so deeply, tears stung my eyes. Adrian noticed. Of course he noticed. His gaze moved from our joined hands to my face, and something inside him softened. Not possession, not destiny, gratitude. Later, when Elena finally slept again, I found Adrian on the terrace outside the healing center. Snow drifted through the dark. The mountains stood black and silent around us. He did not turn when I stepped outside. You should be resting, he said. You should try saying hello like a normal person. A pause. Hello, Amaya? Better. His shoulders eased slightly. I walked to stand beside him. The bruising around my throat pulled when I swallowed. His eyes went to it, and pain flashed across his face. Don't, I said. I failed to protect you. No, Victoria attacked me. That is on her. I brought you into this world. Elena brought me into this world when she cried by Lost Lake. You just showed up looking like an angry building. That earned me a low exhale that might have been a laugh. I turned toward him fully. I meant what I said before. I need time. His face closed down, but he nodded. You have it. I wasn't finished. He looked at me. I need time, I said, because I am not letting fate, your dragon, Victoria Hayes, or some glowing thread make decisions for me. Good. But I'm not running. His breath stopped. I want to know you, I continued. I want to know this place. I want to understand what I am. If my blood is really part of this, and I want to be there for Elena. My voice lowered. And I want you, Adrian. Not because some ancient bond dragged me here. Because you listen. Because you try. Because you could order everyone in this territory to kneel, but you still stop when I say no. His eyes turned gold. Amaya. If you kiss me right now, I warned, this is still not permission to haul me into your bed and test out whatever dragon stamina situation you have going on. A rough sound left him. Understood. But you may kiss me. He bent slowly. Giving me time. Giving me a choice. Damn him for knowing exactly how to undo me. His mouth touched mine. Careful at first, then deeper when my hands fisted in his shirt and pulled. Heat rolled through the bond between us. His tongue stroked mine, and every sensible thought I had left my body, like it had somewhere better to be. When he pulled back, his breathing was harsh. I will court you, he said. I blinked up at him. Do you even know how? No. Terrifying. I learn quickly. I smiled despite myself. You'd better. 3 days later, I returned to Blackthorn Estate with 2 bags, 1 furious group chat from my brothers, and the unsettling realization that I was not visiting anymore. I was coming home. Elena waited at the manor entrance in her wheelchair, bundled in a blue sweater, notebook in her lap. Sophie stood behind her. Nathan leaned against the doorframe pretending he had not been watching the road for 20 minutes. Adrian stood at the bottom of the steps, enormous and still, his gaze fixed on me like the world had narrowed to my little rental car and my ridiculous suitcase. "You know," I told him as I climbed out, "Marcus asked whether you were kind." Adrian's expression sharpened. "What did you say?" I said yes. His throat moved. "Daniel asked whether dragons have prenups." Nathan snorted. "And Joshua asked if he needed silver bullets, wooden stakes, or emotional support snacks." Adrian frowned. "For dragons?" "For himself. He stress eats." Elena started laughing silently, shoulders shaking. I looked around Blackthorn Estate, the children's grounds, the cottages tucked among trees, the distant shape of dragons moving along the ridge, the wolves pretending not to be nosy, the witches watching me with curiosity instead of fear. Then I looked at Adrian, then Elena. My chest filled so suddenly I had to breathe through it. I had spent 15 years building family out of duty and love and sheer stubbornness. Now fate had apparently decided I needed another one. As I stepped onto the first stone stair, the ward beneath my boot lit red. Every conversation stopped. One by one, the stones leading to the manor glowed the same deep blood red. Elena grabbed my hand. Her notebook fell open by itself. Words burned across the page in black ink neither of us had written. "The blood key has come home." Beneath the manor, something ancient knocked from the other side of a sealed door. I had spent half my life raising 3 boys. I thought I'd finally earned the right to live quietly. Then I met a dragon lord, and apparently fate had a very different fucking plan for me.
Dangerous to love. You came like midnight, quiet and cold, with a look that promised things I couldn't control. Everyone in my head told me to run, but your touch felt like the setting sun. I knew you were trouble, and I wanted you anyway. You're dangerous.